back, everybody, with another episode of Kinky Politics. We have Kai and Chris today, and we're going to be talking
Yeah.
about demonizing kind of celebrities and people in the public life once they pass away.
Mm. Yes. Yes. And this is I feel like this is something that is never spoken about. And I feel that this happens a lot, where figures who were popular or well received um, in our society or in our culture, uh, we end up there, after they pass away, we end up hearing about some not so good things that they've
Oh,
done, or at
yes.
least some things that someone has said about those particular people who have passed on, and they're negative
Mhm.
or really awful sounding. And I think that happens quite often. I don't know if you have seen that, or if you would agree with that, Chris.
I definitely think it happens. Certainly with people that are more involved in like the political sphere, not necessarily politicians, but even like celebrities and entertainers that are involved in politics. I notice it with them because usually it's like a um, trying to discredit their political activism by pointing out like their imperfections as a human being. Some people that see that I've seen that happen with is like somebody like Tupac, for example, somebody like Bob Marley. I'm sure if something were to happen to Kendrick Lamar, I'm sure they would start trying to go through and like point out how he wasn't a saint. Um, you know, these kind of people I see it happen with when it's more celebrities that never really take stances on any issues and just kind of a very safe vanilla type celebrities. Like I notice with them, I feel like the opposite happens. We start trying to build them up into superheroes when they were really just pretty people that lucked into like celebrity life or something. Like if Kim Kardashian were to die tomorrow, like they would be trying to make her out to be, well, I don't know. She's such a polarizing figure. Like you would have some people like tearing her down, trying to make her seem like she was the worst person ever. And then other people hyping her up like she should have been the person leading us into the 21st century or something. It's like, or like Beyonce is a perfect example. Like I can't see a lot of demonizing of Beyonce going down when she passes because some celebrities just reach a level where it's like to criticize them publicly is to just bring about a lot of smoke you don't want to deal with. It's not worth the hassle. But I definitely see it. It's it's really weird to me like why people do it because you know I don't know people. I just gotta as you get older, like when you're younger, I did it a lot more when I was younger
Mhm.
because you're I don't know you see the world in a more black and white view. I think when you're younger because you're kind of taught to as you're coming up. But
Mhm.
then as you are an adult and make mistakes and live life, I don't know. I just start to see the world a lot more gray. So it's like anybody, like even like AOC or somebody like that, like I assume that they got some skeletons in their closet and some imperfections I don't know about. And I assume that stuff will probably come out when they pass, but it's like I don't really judge them on that because it's like I I judge them on their actions that they're kind of engaging in now. I don't really care about the skeletons in their closet or, you know, if whatever kind of weird kinks somebody might be into or I don't know, things like that. Because it's usually always like weird sexual stuff that comes out that they try to discredit people with or they were doing drugs or something. It's never like anything about their actual character or like, stuff like that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting. I have I don't know. I feel like it happens more with people who have had a lot of power in our culture, but more so, I feel like it happens a lot with Black celebrities.
Mm.
Um, more than anything. And the person who straight comes to mind is Michael Jackson. I feel that rather than looking at Michael Jackson as an entertainer, which is what his role was in our just in our I shouldn't say that's what his role was, but that's what he gave us, which was entertainment.
Yeah.
We after he really, it was after he passed away, I feel like the media and the world started to discredit him as an icon and wanted to sort of tear or strip his name down with obviously all the sexual allegations and the molestation things and things like that. And whether or not you think that's true is your prerogative, but you know, they even tried to take away the King of Pop title, you know, and they tried to do that when he was alive, but I feel like, you know, they really tried to drag his ass with that whole, you remember that documentary that they made about him?
Yeah.
And it's like yes, and it was like, bro, he's dead. He can't even,
yeah,
you know, he can't even defend himself. So whether or not it's true, whether or not it's true, I mean, like, if it's true, it's like, well, shit. And it's like, you know, then we start talking about the whole like Me Too movement, and like people who are like, you know, I'm sure would come at me and be like, Kai, how could you say that and not like listen to, you know, those who are probably, you know, who have been tormented by him, as an example. You know, you're supposed to believe them.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to negate that or say that their stories are somehow invalid. I'm not saying that. I'm just, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, and it sounds terrible, but all I can say is like, he's dead. He can't defend himself or even rebut or even, you know, like say, yes, that was true. He
Yeah.
can't confirm it, you know? So it's like, why would you want to tell the media or the world that this happened to you? But then I know in the same breath, you know, people might say to me like, you know, don't judge the way a person wants to come out and tell their truth, right? And if they're finally coming out and telling their truth, then how could you like shit on them for that? You know, and so I understand, but I also don't understand too, because it's just, to me it's like, well, can't you just kind of say your truth to someone you love or to people you love and let that be that, since the man isn't fucking there
Yeah.
to say, yes, I have done those things and I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
So he's one person that comes to mind, but they, you know, the this is not an unusual thing, and I think it happens way too much, and I think it's completely unnecessary. And the argument I feel like a lot of people have when discussing this kind of stuff is that um no, we need to stop idolizing these people who were horrible people to in our society.
Yeah.
And I get that, but also, what did they offer us? Did they offer us that side of them, or did they offer us this side of them of which we only knew of? So if we only actually know of like this one side of them, why do we need to tap into the shitty things that they've done when we could just be left with the good things? Because everyone's flawed and everyone's kind of fucked up anyway.
Yeah.
So why? It's kind of like having a funeral and someone being like, oh, and by the way, she was a mega dick to me in third grade when I did such and such and such and such. And oh, and by the way, in 2008, you know, me and Kai got into a real fight. And it's just like, at your funeral, don't you want to hear the fucking best things about you anyway?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not saying that those were not, you know, these ill things or these terrible things were not part of this person's like past. I'm not saying, I don't know, but I guess I guess it's also like, where's the line? Why? I don't fully understand why it's necessary. Um,
Well, I mean, I think it's a larger part, or I think it's a part of this whole kind of social justice movement in America. Especially what I notice it now is like, I mean, they're wanting to get rid of. I saw something where I can't remember what university or state it was, but they're San Francisco. They're renaming high schools named after Abraham Lincoln
mhm.
because he wasn't woke enough. I was like, the motherfucker freed slaves. He took a bullet in the head for freeing slaves, and we're like, no, 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 he wasn't good enough. I don't know, I don't even know what the hell he did to upset them, but he's not like Dianne Feinstein is a sitting Democratic senator, and she did something that put her on the list of because I guess she has a couple of schools named after her because she used to be mayor of San Francisco. They're demanding those schools get their names changed.
It's weird with the Abraham Lincoln thing. I think this is so weird, but as we know, people will write history in the way they want it to be written,
Yeah,
right? So with the Abraham Lincoln thing, it's like we learned during school that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but we really didn't know why he freed the slaves.
yeah,
You know, his primary objective wasn't to actually free the slaves. It was a different super objective, you know, which is great to a degree because in the end it did help free the slaves, but that wasn't a super objective. You know, he it was like, yes, 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 yes. And that's part of it. And if that's what we have to do, then that's what we have to do. And then the slaves do get free, but we need to make sure that there's, you know what I'm saying? So um I guess with I don't know, with the Abraham Lincoln thing, I'm a little bit like, well, I kind of understand that because it was like that's not he wasn't fighting for that. That wasn't his mission, you know.
mm,
Um I'm not saying he wasn't a good guy. I'm not saying that. But in that respect, maybe there's another person who a school could be named after that may reflect the you know who or what the school is, you know,
yeah,
um in terms of their mission and their ideas and their values, and maybe even the students who are in that school, like there's a and I think it's New Orleans.
mm,
um there's a school that's named after some like racist general or some shit like that, and it's a black school.
yeah,
It's kind of like you know, if 90% of the 90% of your students now look, if 90% of your students are white and, you know, they're living in Florida and it's a really wealthy area,
mm,
I might not give a fuck. It's like kind of like, well, then I guess that, you know, it is what it is. But I mean, I don't know. With the Abraham Lincoln thing, I feel like I'd be all right with that change. I'd be okay with that.
yeah.
Um,
I don't understand. Like, I guess the thing that's just really funny to me is, as somebody who studies history a lot, I'm aware of how humanity was before the 1960s, when all of a sudden everybody started thinking that people deserved equality. Because prior to 1960, the idea of people deserving equality was very not common. Let's just say that. So it's like I understand that, like, especially if you're talking about a man that was born before maybe the 80s, I'm assuming that guy's probably going to be a sexist. Like, I don't know in what capacity. You know, I don't know if he's going to be full on like domestic violence, treating his wife like property. I don't know if he's just going to have some sexist comments he's going to make. But at some point in that guy's regular life, there's going to be some sexism because that was the era he grew up in. You know, so it's like if people grew up like in an era where racism was just the common view of everybody, I don't expect them not to be racist. Like, that's why I don't understand why people get shocked. It's like, if you were to flash forward 200 years in the future and look back at us today, I don't know what it is, but there are things that people would be appalled by that we believe.
mhm.
But to us, we're like, well, fuck yeah, we believe these. These are common, normal things that we're taught. Like everybody believes these. So it's like we
Yeah.
don't want people to look back at us 200 years from now and be calling us like bigots for ideas we didn't even know about, not
Mm.
believing in them. Like it's like
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. I think you're right. You mentioned something about like, well, it's it's part of this whole like woke culture. But in that woke culture, I think the primary objective is revealing the truth about things. And so maybe that's what I'm missing here with the whole like, in terms of our conversation about demonizing past figures. It's like it's giving the full value
mm,
to these people who were prominent figures in our society. It's saying we can glorify them fine,
mm,
but they weren't perfect,
yeah.
and this is who they were. And maybe that's my, maybe that's what I'm missing here, is that that's what people are trying to do. But
Because
I
I mean,
think yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was gonna say I can't think of personally anyone, any historical figure that I look up to. I can't think of a single one that there wouldn't be multiple things that modern society would find wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're
Mm-hmm.
talking people that only lived 40, 50 years ago, 60
Mm-hmm.
years ago, that
Mm-hmm.
were, that are still to this day iconic figures
Mm-hmm.
in American society.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, even like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, they would be
Yeah, but
considered homophobic today.
yeah, I think Chris, there's you're at obviously a certain level of maturity and a certain level of like understanding of things where you're comfortable in that realization. I think there are a lot of people who are not. And I think majority of people don't like the idea, don't like to hear. It's the same thing. It's like, it reminds me of like Bill Clinton. It's like nobody wanted to know that he was cheating on Hillary with Monica Lewinsky,
Yeah.
right? No one wanted to know that. And for the longest time, I always was like, what's the fucking big deal? Now I know that's crazy coming from me, but but for me, especially as a kid, and I was saying to myself, like, and I would say it quietly to myself because I was embarrassed, because all my friends and all my teachers would be like, oh, it's so shameful and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking to a girl who was raised Christian, like a devout Christian,
Mhm.
father's a pastor. You know what I mean? So for me to quietly say to myself as a little person, talking about like, what's so bad about that, right? Is kind of bizarre. But I think um I literally was looking at Bill Clinton as the president, not as some kind of moral, he wasn't my father. He wasn't,
Exactly.
I wasn't concerned with his sex life. I wasn't concerned with his intimate, I wasn't concerned with his friends.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, especially, with the position, I guess, of chief of staff, or not even chief of, what am I saying, chief of staff, but just, president of the United States, they have this unbelievable idea of what a president should be and look like. And it's like, um those expectations are unreal because nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and as a child I can't believe I could think that it was okay, you know what I mean? But I think I must have realized that no one's perfect. So I don't care about that. Like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. Oh, she gave him a blowjob. What's a blowjob? Does that have to do with, blow pops? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know any of that shit. So I
What's on
was
the dress?
exactly. So
Yeah, it's funny we
yeah.
have that expectation of presidents too, given the past history of like the, I don't know, if you were to take the past 20 presidents, maybe like two of them didn't have huge scandals while in office. Like maybe two of them. It's like
Yeah.
they've all been
Yeah.
like corrupt, shady people. Like a lot of
I
them have been having affairs. Like been pretty common.
No one's perfect. But then on the other side, I think what a lot of people had said, especially with respect to the presidents, is like, you know, the president is a reflection of your society.
Mm,
And And so it's very revealing. And I think that people don't like the idea. Like, it's like, oh, a president who cheats. So that means most of us cheat. And, you know, and it's like, well, yes, I think most of us cheat, you know,
We have
but that's
websites
not,
for it.
but that's not something that as a society we're comfortable with. And so
Yeah.
we like, we don't like you. And it's like, but y'all are doing that behind closed doors anyway. So
Mhm.
what's the big deal, right? But I think, I think I think it's interesting. I don't think we give people enough grace, you know,
Mhm.
and just be like, well, they were, you know, they were just humans, you know. At the end of the day, they weren't anything but human beings.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, you know, and you mentioned, I think with like, you know, actors, didn't you mention something about actors about how
Yeah.
they go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I feel like with actors, it's different though, because, and I don't know if this is more of like a modern thing with like social media, maybe change this because it gives us access to celebrities in ways we didn't used to. Because used to, the only access you had to celebrities was basically what you read in the, those,
Paparazzi.
yeah, those magazines and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So they were able to really protect them and like project an image of them that they wanted you to know. Whereas now it's completely different with social media. So it's like when I see celebrities die now, like I see them built up into saint-like figures. A
Hmm.
lot of times, like Nipsey Hussle. I'm trying to think who were some of the people that have died recently. Like when Paul Walker died, like
Hmm.
I was like, I had no idea. Like every time a celebrity dies now, just like when Screech died the other day, it was just like everybody's R.I.P. Screech, R.I.P. Screech. Like I was like, man, you haven't even thought of Screech in 30 years. Like, what is it? This dude was like, I mean, like I don't, and that's the bad thing too. Is like, and like when Kobe died, the same thing. Like everybody's like, Kobe changed my life, Mamba mentality, and I'm like, what has Kobe done for your life? Like, I'm serious. Like, I get it. Like, I like watching Kobe play too. He's probably the second best basketball player I've ever seen. But I also don't forget that he raped a girl and like the court transcripts, like, and like you, but if you brought that, everybody was talking about like Kobe was Jesus, and I was just, when celebrities die, it's just people's. I don't know. I don't understand it because I don't get into celebrities like that. But maybe I mean there are a few celebrities I really do respect. I don't know. Maybe when one of them dies, it'll be like that for me. But it's like the way people talk about these celebrities when they die, it just blows my mind.
I think you're right. I think that I think that you know, there have been a few celebrities too where I've been like, dang, why are we hyping them up? Why are we hyping them up like this?
Yeah.
But you're right. I think, you know, with Paul Walker, I mean, I don't mean to talk about it like that as if we shouldn't hype them up, but like Paul Walker and, you know, Kobe. I mean, I think as an example, somebody like Kobe Bryant,
Mm.
um, yes, he did, you know,
Allegedly,
it,
it was
yeah,
settled out of court.
yes, exactly.
Read the
He did
transcripts, though. The transcripts are
allegedly,
very damning.
he did allegedly rape a girl. Um, and that's terrible if that's true. Um, definitely not condoning that.
Mm.
And, you know, it's awful. But I think what he brought to the sport um was a certain level of he had a certain type of work ethic, which for a lot of people was transformative to see. You know, he happened to be just really 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 great. And I'm not saying that he should be idolized, but I think when credit is due, credit's due. So I think a lot of the stuff that has been coming out about him, which is really positive, I think it's actually there because people in general, not even the media, are pushing that narrative.
Mm.
I think it's people who are like, oh, you know, this is what. Have you watched these YouTube? You know what I'm saying? And I think then the
Yeah.
media was like, oh, He's actually so great because especially during this sort of like Me Too era, as the woke era that we're in right now, you would expect for those rape allegation receipts to just blow up, right? But it didn't.
Yeah,
And
no.
so I think the reason is because of, I was just about to say constituents. I think the reason is because of people. It's because we have changed that narrative in such a strong way to be like, this was the most, this is the most powerful thing. And so I have a feeling in a couple years' time, those rape allegations are going to come out and it's going to be a thing. And there's going to be a couple girls going to be, you know, 10, 11 women who are going to be like, he raped me, he did this, and his name is going to, I feel like it happens. I feel like it consistently happens.
Yeah, that wouldn't
So
surprise me because in the transcripts, he did say that was what he did with that girl. He did say that was his thing. That was not a one-off. He said that was his
you have
thing.
to tell me, you'll have to tell me what that was
Okay,
after
yeah, I'll tell
we
you.
finish this.
It was
But
kind of shocking. Like I was just like, holy shit. Yeah, it's
it's
shocking.
terrible because I love Kobe and
Yeah. I think the thing that really helped Kobe is two things. Number one, very good looking guy. Number two, surrounded by what he's got four daughters or three, four daughters and his Instagram model looking wife. Like he's just got like the perfect family. Like he's just surrounded by all these beautiful women always in his pictures. And you
yeah,
can't be like, that dude? No,
yeah,
he's such
and
a
he's
good
a
guy. He
dad.
wouldn't hurt women. He's got four daughters.
We have a complex. We have a complex. If someone is really attractive, it's kind of like I'll never forget it. I always think of the movie Streetcar Named Desire. You
Hmm.
seen it?
Paul Newman, right? No, Marlon Brando.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Marlon Brando's character, he was an abuser. He
Mhm.
was an abuser. He was abusive. That whole movie, he was abusive.
Yeah.
He was wild and feral and horrible. He's a horrible human being.
Mhm.
And yet we're like, Marlon, we love you. Here are your flowers right now. You're an amazing character. Like, even when we talk about him, I remember talking about him in grade school in literature class
Mhm.
and idolizing this character. And it was hard not to,
Mhm.
his character in the movie. And yet I remember thinking to myself, isn't this character bad? Didn't he like hit her? Why do we like him? But I didn't say this because I just thought, I do like him, like personally. Like, I'm like, I like him. I don't know. I just can't stop myself from liking him, you know? So
Yeah.
I knew that, I don't know. I guess I didn't know, you know, but I knew that saying that I shouldn't like him didn't make sense because I liked him. So I think your first point is totally right, which is we idolize people who are attractive
Mhm.
and we have a hard time tarnishing their image if they're attractive. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But we you know, we have a tendency to push it under the rug. Um it's the other thing is too, when we idolize these people when they've died, I think everyone's so afraid of death. I shouldn't say everyone, but it's generally speaking, death is a scary thing for most people. And
Yeah.
so when someone dies, it's like, and you somehow want to redeem death by talking about the good things about them
Yeah.
almost instantly. You know, you're like, oh my God, this was so bad, it's so bad. What can I do to change my mood? Oh, I know. Talk about the good things.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so terrible. So I have a feeling that after a couple of years or maybe a couple of months even, we're going to start to hear all the bullshit about Kobe.
That will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. And it never fails. It never fails. Especially, mark my words, especially these black politicians, celebrities, anybody black in the public eye usually gets tarnished after they die.
Mm.
It's usually not right away, but after they die, you'll start to hear like, oh shit, she was terrible. Oh shit. Like forever, we thought George Washington was the best fucking man on the face of this earth. Remember?
Mhm.
George Washington. Even, you know, myself, I'd be like, George Washington is a fucking, he's on the dollar bill. He's on Mount Rushmore. He's a shit. Blah, 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 blah. It's only now that we're like, George Washington owned slaves.
Yeah.
He was not a good man.
Yeah.
He was not, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, whoa, he wasn't a good man.
Yeah. They kind
Even
of took
though
that part out.
we read that he wasn't a good man.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't hidden. It wasn't actually hidden. But
Yeah.
somehow we were like, he was a good man. Still. Which is hilarious. The person who I feel in what, you know, when we learn history in grade school and stuff,
Hmm.
where it was like, wow, why did we glorify him, was Thomas Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
He was one where I was like, I don't get what the hype is here. Like, he
Because
was
he was kind
bad.
of the brains of the operation.
Yeah,
He
he
was the
was.
smart guy.
He was the smart guy. He was also the dick guy.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up. He was all the way fucked up.
Yeah.
He had lots of me's and all the way fucked up for that, you know, among a number of things. But I think the one thing that I remember too from grade school with George Washington, which I never forgot, was that he had wooden teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know if that's true, but yeah, I remember hearing that.
Never forgot. I'm just like, shit.
Like, how did that even work? Like, where did these?
Anyway,
Yeah.
so on that note, I think my feeling is we should not demonize people after they've died. That's my, and I mean, and if we're going to, we really should draw the line on how far we go, because we really need to look at the contributions that someone has given society.
Hmm.
And respectively, many actors, I know that you have an issue with it, but I think that many actors and entertainers um, have given a whole lot, because actors have, in my thing, I realize that actors have, they have the special gift in sharing the world with people by portraying the world, which is very hard to do unless you are um, physically open and emotionally open enough to understand the
Hmm.
psyche behind someone, or the psyche behind a culture, or the psyche behind people, and then be able to portray that. So it's a deep type of empathy, which I think people can look past. And so if you're able to, as an actress or as an actor, as an artist, be able to do that and share it with the world and have the world respond very well to your work,
Hmm.
it means that you're changing it, because you're giving, people are looking at you and they're saying like, oh, this is the world, this is what I'm part of, or this is changing me, as an example. So I really see a lot of these a lot of these entertainers, including politicians,
Hmm.
as change agents of the world, because we're looking at society through the way they're portraying it, and
Yeah.
we're getting an idea about this. So somebody like, for example, Cicely Tyson, who's been around for a long time and who is right now being glorified by the media, she should be,
Hmm.
because she changed the way in which the world views Black people, and she changed the way in which Hollywood portrayed Black people,
Hmm.
particularly Black women, and strong Black women, and thoughtful Black women, and kind Black women. It wasn't just like angry or subservient or you know, mammy roles. It was like, I'm a full-fledged, you know, or a sexual role or something like that. It was like, I'm a full-fledged three-dimensional person here, and I'm going to be looked at as at that way, in that way, which is a huge shift to the way in which people all over the world saw Black people, because it's Hollywood that changes the narrative of the way we see things.
Hmm.
So she was transformative in what she offered, um, offered the world, to be honest. So she's, you know, for all the little Black actors who came after her, especially,
Hmm.
it was like, wow, I can do that. I can do that. I can be that, and the world may appreciate me. So that was huge for obviously actors, but in a much broader sense, she she allowed for Black people to be seen much differently, and And in that sense, white people, various other cultures could see Black people in a much different way. And it brought a level of sympathy, it brought a level of empathy, it brought a level of understanding where we were like, oh, not we, but where people may be like, oh, I didn't know Black people could be like that. I thought they were just, which is a
Mhm.
huge thing to do.
Yeah.
Huge. So,
Yeah. I would agree with that. Okay. I think that is everything we have for this week. I think we ran out of time a little bit. So it was a good episode. Till next week, everybody.
Oh my god. Orange is not my new black.